5 years, we've had 1,700 commitments involving probably 10,000 people in groups, worth about, over a 10-year period, $55 billion. And the implementation of those commitments have already helped in economic empowerment or healthcare or education or reconciliation or fighting climate change. We have counted, with a pretty conservative count, 220 million lives in 170 countries that have already been actually directly impacted. And people can give a little bit of money. And we try to get commitments, like Procter & Gamble gave us a lot of money with their little water purification packets. If you drop it in a bucket of water that's not polluted, it'll clean it up, and a family of 4 can live on it for 3 or 4 days. They cost 10 cents a piece. So we webcast it, and then people who have $10 to give can pledge $10 and buy 100 packets. We had a group called Sun Night Solar. It makes solar flashlights. Originally, they started making them as solar flashlights. Then they realized in poor countries where most people are not on the electrical grid, they could light rooms. So now they're 3-way flashlights with a hook on the end. You just hang it up, and they'll light a whole room, and different kinds of light. So if you want to read, it's concentrated. If you want to work and do sewing or something at night, it's diffuse. They just gave me 500,000 of those lights for Haiti that will light 2.5 million lives at night. That's more than 25% of the whole country. Cost them maybe $5 million to do that. A lot cheaper than putting everybody on the electrical grid. And so these are things we can all do. Then a couple years ago, we started doing it at just for university students, which they obviously have far less money, but sometimes they have much better ideas. And we just say, make a commitment. Last year, we had, at the University of Texas, 3 students from McGill, 14 from China, came all the way from China, 1 from Burma. That's a hilarious story. So we're at the University of Texas at Austin, right, which is predominantly in the Hispanic part of Texas. And we always do a community service project. So this last day, we went out to this Hispanic neighborhood where they had a community center that had been deteriorating, and we did a lot of cleanup there. And I was going around thanking the students, and this young man starts talking to me, and I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Myanmar, Burma," he said. I said, "How did you get here?" He said, "You invited me, and I accepted." And I said, "But I saw the list of all." We fly a lot of people in, by the way. We fly to the Global Initiative, NGOs from poor countries. We cover their costs to make sure that everybody can be represented. And we fly a lot of students in that can't afford to come. And I said, "But you weren't on the list." He said, "No, I got myself here." He said, "But I don't want to." And then he smiled and he said, "I'm being a little bit misleading." He said, "I was a student in London when I heard about this, and I applied, and you accepted me." And I said, "Why did you do this?" So here's this kid from Burma cleaning up the yard for these poor Latinos in East Austin, Texas. And I said, "Why did you do this?" He said, "Look, I know my country's all messed up. But," he said, "it's a beautiful place. They're good people. We have enormous potential. And in the end, people like me are going to have to change it. And we're going to have to take some risks to change it. Look what happened to the monks," he said. "But we just have to keep pushing. And I came here to learn how to do it." Simple ideas to empower individuals. So 3 of your students came. And I'll just tell you, this is very interesting. One of them, Nate Andrew Ling, made the following commitment to establish something called Volunteer Niagara, which is simply an online database of service opportunities in this area, in the Niagara region, primarily targeted to high school students to get them started early doing this kind of work. It's a big deal. You'd be amazed how many people are willing to do things and don't know how to do it. Another group that I hope gets a big award sometime is Kiva.org. 2 Peace Corps volunteers met and fell in love when they were working in Africa and came home and decided that everybody in the world should be able to be a microcredit banker. So if you go on the Kiva website and you say, I'm interested in Afghanistan, you push Afghanistan, and all the registered business people in Afghanistan that need loans come up. And for $100, you can double a car repairman's business, and he can hire 2 more people. For $25, you can do it for a television repair person. And then every 2 weeks, you get a report on how your business is doing, and when they pay the money back, as 98% of them do, you get a notice, do you want your money back, or you want to turn around and lend it to somebody else? These are the kinds of things that can be done in the world in which we live. And I say that to make this sort of simple statement. I have, as I get older, I keep trying to simplify things because I'm a policy wonk and I love the details. But if somebody asks me today, how do you stand on issue X? I may have the wrong position, I may get it wrong, but I'm sure I have the right filter. I ask myself one question every time. Will this build up the positive or reduce the negative forces of interdependence? If it will, I'm for it. If it won't, I'm against it. Now, determining what the facts are sometimes is difficult. Determining what the consequences of a particular course are sometimes is just educated guesswork. But at least if you start with the right filter, with the right framework, we have a chance to make the world that our children and grandchildren deserve. So that's what I ask you to think about. Canada and the United States built great, throbbing, vibrant countries, partly on the shoulders of a meritocracy. It's really what a great university is, isn't it? You find a child, a young boy or girl, without regard to their background, and you give them a chance to learn what they can learn and do what they dream of doing, and then it all adds up to something great. Nobody exactly organized it. They just do what people do, and when you look at it, it's beautiful and big and powerful and compelling. What I would like to say is that the intelligence you see in the young people in McGill can be found anywhere in the world. Intelligence is evenly distributed, and so are dreams. But structure, which gives predictability of consequence to action taken, and investment in opportunity or not. And it's simply going to be impossible for us to build the world we need unless in the wealthy countries we are ruthlessly honest about where we are wasting money and hanging on to yesterday's way of doing things. That's why I think we're going to get some kind of health care reform in America today. Finally, the deniability ran out, and all the bogus arguments don't cut much mustard anymore. When the health insurance companies made their last great effort to block reform last week, I got so frustrated I was giving a bunch of speeches, and I said, here's what their position amounts to. I said, we're spending 17% of our income almost on health care now. Next highest is Switzerland at 11.5%, and you're somewhere between 10.5% and 11%. And every other major country in the world is between 9 and 10. So if you add that up, it amounts to, in the numbers of our GDP, a $900 billion handicap we take into the global economy. So I said, I personally think it's immoral that we don't give everybody health insurance, and immoral that we leave 30% of the people that have health insurance at risk of losing it. But suppose you don't care anything about those people. Forget about them. To heck with your neighbors. You're spotting the competition, $900 billion, for nothing. I said, it's almost as if I said to the American people, I've decided I don't believe in the 22nd Amendment, and I'm going to run for a third term as president. Here's my platform. Vote for me. As soon as I get elected, I'm going to impose on you a $900 billion tax. And then, because nobody really knows how much money that is, I'm going to have the Treasury Department convert it into cash, and I'm going to haul it out on the Capitol Mall on national television so you can see $900 billion. I will then get a mobile ladder, which will take me up in